Welcome to Born to Win. I'm Brian Proctor, and each Monday I'll share a short message to help you start your week with focus, clarity, and intention. Every episode is designed to remind you that success isn't something you chase, it's something you allow. You were born to win, and when you live in harmony with the laws of life, you begin to experience that truth in every area of your life. Now, before we get into today's episode, I want to thank you for being here and ask that you help me spread the word about this podcast by liking, sharing, rating, commenting, and following. Thank you so much for that support. Today, we're talking about something that may seem simple on the surface, but it has the potential to change your relationships, your leadership, and even the way you think. Today, we're talking about listening to understand. We're also going to talk about a skill that sits right beside listening, and that is the skill of asking better questions. Because listening and asking thoughtful questions go together. One without the other is incomplete. So take a deep breath, open your mind, and let's get started. I imagine most people believe they are good listeners, but that is not the truth. If you look around you, you quickly notice people who are distracted or who are waiting for their turn to speak, waiting to offer advice, waiting to disagree, waiting to tell their story. And while they are waiting, they are not truly hearing the other person. Communication is about more than talking. It is about understanding. And understanding requires listening with intention. Listening to understand, not to respond. That may sound simple, but it's rare. And the reason it's rare is that active listening requires patience and presence. It also requires kindness and a desire to prioritize connection. It's easy to think kindness means being passive, agreeable, or avoiding difficult conversations. That's not kindness. Kindness is strength under control. It is the discipline to remain calm when the impulse is to react. Kindness is the willingness to understand another person before insisting on being understood yourself. And truly listening to understand another person is one of the clearest expressions of kindness that there really is. Because when you truly listen to someone, you are saying without words, you matter. And that changes people, because when a person feels seen, they feel cared for. Now, I want to introduce a principle borrowed from improvisational theater called yes and. In improvisational theater, actors are taught a simple rule. Whatever your partner says, you accept it and build on it. You do not block it. You do not dismiss it. You do not shut it down. You acknowledge it and add to it. Yes, and. It keeps the scene moving. It keeps creativity flowing. It creates a connection instead of resistance. Now imagine applying that principle to your daily conversations. Not blindly agreeing. That's not what this means. It means acknowledging what another person has said and building understanding before offering your own perspective. Yes, I hear what you're saying, and here's another way to look at it. That simple shift changes the emotional climate of a conversation. Now, I want to share a memory that shaped my understanding of this. I remember being with my father at one of his seminars many years ago. There was a man in the audience who stood up during a question and answer and began speaking. He was frustrated. You could see it in his body language and hear it in his voice. He was talking about his business, his finances, and how nothing seemed to be working. What struck me was not what the man said, it was how my father listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't rush to give advice. He didn't correct the man or try to fix him immediately. He just listened. And he listened long enough that the entire room became quiet. When the man finished, my father didn't jump into a solution. He simply said, "I can hear how frustrating that's been for you." That was it. And you could see the man physically relax. Then Dad asked a question, a thoughtful question about his business. Not a surface-level question, but one that caused the man to pause and think. And that question began to shift the entire conversation. Later, I asked my father why he didn't just give the man the answer right away. He said something I'll never forget. He said, "Brian, people don't need answers as much as they need understanding. Once they feel understood, they become open. And when they're open, they can hear." That was a powerful lesson for me, and it taught me something else. Good listening leads naturally to good questions. And good questions promote connection that advice often cannot. Too often, a person asks questions to confirm what they already believe. But great communicators, they ask questions to discover something new. There is a big difference. A weak or rhetorical question narrows thinking and often elicits answers that don't require thought. A strong question expands it. For example, instead of asking someone, "Why didn't you do that?" ask, "What got in your way?" Instead of asking, "What's wrong?" ask, "What would help you right now?" Do you feel the difference in those questions? Better questions create better thinking, and better thinking creates better connections. Now, this may sound dramatic, but I want you to think about this. Can you imagine that the quality of your life could be determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself and others? Well, it's true. Giving thought to what you're about to ask can direct your focus and emotions, which can dictate your responses and behavior. If you ask weak questions, you'll get weak answers. So listening is not just about hearing others. It's about guiding thinking through the questions you ask. Now let's go deeper into what it means to listen to understand. There are 3 levels of listening. The first is listening to respond. That's where most people operate. The second is listening to comprehend. You're following the conversation, but you're still mostly focused on what you want to share about yourself. The third level is listening to understand. And this is the level where you are also tapping into your intuition. You are feeling the feeling, or the energy, around the other person. You're observing and feeling the body language. This is where you listen for meaning, emotion, and intention. You listen for what is not being said. And this is where good questions can build bridges, because thoughtful questions help people clarify their own thinking. And when someone discovers an answer themselves, it sticks far more than advice ever could. This is why great leaders ask more questions than they give instructions. They guide thinking rather than control it. The Greek philosopher Socrates, well, he was a great example of this. His Socratic method focused on asking probing questions. Questions that sparked thinking rather than giving advice or lecturing. Now, I want to turn this inward for a moment because this skill is impactful when we use it to listen to ourselves. This involves listening to your intuition and your desires, and to do this properly, you must intentionally quiet your mind. I think it is safe to say that most people are listening to noise. Social media, news, other people's opinions, or old conditioning. When those are getting the majority of airtime, that quiet voice inside, it gets drowned out. Listening to yourself requires quiet space and a willingness to reflect. And one of the most powerful tools you can use in reflection is, you guessed it, asking yourself better questions. Questions like, what am I learning right now? Or what is one small step that I can take next? These questions direct your focus and awareness, which determine the quality of your thoughts, which in turn drive your actions and ultimately your results. Now let's get practical, because listening, asking better questions, and developing presence are skills that can be improved. So here is your Born to Win exercise for this week. For the next 7 days, intentionally practice listening. When someone speaks, slow down your response. Pause before you speak. Let there be space. Most people are not used to being given that kind of attention, and you'll be surprised how meaningful that pause can be. Give the person your full attention. Put the phone down. Make eye contact. Be present. Presence is a high vibration state because you have to be grounded in the moment. It radiates an energy of love and calmness, and quite frankly, is a soothing force. When the other person finishes speaking, reflect back on what you heard. You might say, "So what I hear you're saying is," and then confirm it. That simple step ensures understanding and lets the other person know they've truly been heard. Then, instead of rushing to give advice or an opinion, ask a better question. Ask open-ended questions that begin with what or how. Questions that open a conversation rather than close it. Questions that help someone think more clearly, feel supported, and move forward. At least once each day this week, consciously use the phrase yes and in a conversation. Build on what the other person is saying instead of contradicting or redirecting it. That small shift alone can immediately change the tone of communication. At the end of each day for these 7 days, take a few moments to reflect and ask yourself, did I listen to understand today? What did I learn by listening? What question did I ask that opened a conversation rather than closed one? Notice the changes. Notice how people relax when they feel heard. Notice how conversations become easier. Notice how tension softens when understanding replaces the need to be right. To quote Wayne Dyer, when you have the choice to be kind or be right, choose kind, and you'll always be right. Love that quote. Now, notice something deeper. Are you feeling calmer and more centered and connected to the people around you? It takes strength to slow down and listen. It takes strength to care enough to understand. Your level of success in life is directly connected to your level of awareness of yourself and the people around you. Listening expands that awareness faster than almost anything else. It helps you learn faster, it helps you connect deeper, and it helps you lead better. Understanding and kindness, they're superpowers. So remember this, you do not need to have all the answers. You do not need to control every conversation. And never forget that the most interesting person in the room is the one who is most interested. Thank you for joining me today on Born to Win. If this message resonated with you, please share it with someone who could use a reminder of their own inner greatness. It also helps me to reach more people if you rate and follow this podcast. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Brian Proctor Official. And remember, success isn't about luck or timing, it's about alignment. You were designed for success, built for expansion, and born to win. I'll see you next Monday. Until then, think big, trust yourself, and keep growing.